Good morning and welcome to the Navarra circuit here in Spain. We've got a round of the FIA GT3 European Championship coming up for you this morning. It's the third round of the season. It's going to be the fifth race of the season, and with any luck, we're in for an absolutely cracking race. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me here in the commentary box is John Watson. John, we were driving in this morning. It's a beautiful morning.
Well, it's a lovely part of Spain, northern part of Spain, the Navarra region. And lots of mountain, rocky outcrops and plains, and just really a very underpopulated part of northern Spain, and all the better for it.
So the track temperature, 26.1 degrees centigrade, only 22.4 air temperature. I say only 22. For these drivers, it'll feel like a sauna, considering we've been at Nogaro and Zolder for the opening two rounds, which were predominantly wet races, but we move here to this relatively new facility here in Navarra, and it's certainly a pretty impressive facility as well. 15 corners around this circuit, and John, it's proved some interesting racing yesterday in GT1, and hopefully more of the same today.
Yeah, I mean it's a 3.9 kilometre, 2.45 mile racetrack, 15 corners as you mentioned. Up until you get to turn 9, it's relatively open and free flowing. Here we see the exit of turn 13. To your left on screen, those marker cones indicating the entrance into the pit lane. But from turn 9 all the way through to turn 15, much tighter, not a great deal of opportunity to make an overtaking manoeuvre, and it'll only be the quick and the brave that try and do it into the final turn, turn 15. You've got to be careful you don't compromise your entry into the corner by diving up the inside and consequently not being able to make the apex, and you can make the cutback. Altogether, we had some, particularly the GT1 event on Saturday evening, going from 6:30, 7 o'clock into dusk, was truly magical. One of the most enjoyable broadcasts of my career, and it makes you really appreciate why endurance racing, and certainly things like 24-hour races or 12-hour races, whatever they may be, going into night time, are so special.
Here's the championship standings. It's currently Gaetano Ardagna Perez and Giuseppe Ciro who top the who top the championship table, I should say, ahead of Dominic Baumann and Maximilian Buch. Stefano Guy and Michael Lyons in third place in the championship. Then we've got Gregory Gilbert, Mark Saur, David Mengsdorf, our pole position man. We'll take you through the grid in a few moments' time. He and Harry Procik are fifth in the championship, with Max Nilsson and Mika Vähämäki amassing about half the points of their teammates, which will no doubt frustrate them in the Heiko Gravity Charoux Mercedes SLSs. So that's how the Drivers' Championship is looking, and that strong performance, first and third in the Drivers' Championship, means that AF Corsa have a relatively strong lead in the Teams' Championship, ahead of that Heiko Gravity Charoux racing team. Sciencelock Racing are in third place. Rhinos Leipert Motorsport have had more pace than their current fourth place in the championship suggests. Fifth is Russian Bear Motorsport. Unfortunately, yesterday we lost the Russian Bear Motorsport number 5 car of Vyacheslav Maliv and Kirill Ladygin. They had a crash coming out of turn 14 into the tyre barrier, destroyed the front end of that Ferrari, and so there will only be one Russian Bear Motorsport car out there today. We've also got a new entrant for this weekend, which is the 32 Belgian Audi Club Team WRT car. They're going to be starting in 10th position on the grid, that car with Yves Wertz and Kurt Mollikens at the wheel.
Yeah, it's a sort of strange weekend. It's a 2-day race weekend rather than a traditional 3. A lot of the activities on Saturday were sort of herded into the back end of the afternoon into the evening. Now we've had GT1 warm-up this morning at 9 o'clock. It's now just after 10 o'clock in the morning. Ambient and track temperature are probably at the lowest they've been for any of these competitors in the GT3 event. So it's going to be interesting to see whether what we have seen in practice and qualifying, in other words, the pace of the front row, for example, the Lamborghini of Mengsdorf or the Mercedes of Baumann and Maximilian Buch, whether they can improve on the times. And we certainly saw a very, very strong qualifying for the second GT3 race later this afternoon. The pace of the Mercedes-Benz in that session, I thought, was outstanding, and I'm going to want to keep an eye on these two Heiko Gravity Charoux team cars, because they proved to me that they've got a lot more pace than we saw in the first GT3 qualifying, which is in effect what we're going to have here as the grid. So those two Mercedes, one in the front row of the grid, one in the second row of the grid, are going to be mixing it right from the start, and the drag off the start line, of course it's a rolling start up to turn 1, critical.
The man they've got to beat is the pole position man, David Mengsdorf. His teammate, Harry Procik, will be taking over halfway through this race, and Haley is down on the grid. I think we can talk to Harry now.
Harry, David is definitely strong in the Lamborghini, but will he be able to fight off the Mercedes at that first corner?
Hopefully we will see after the first 2-3 corners what happened. But I think when he is in front, then we can keep a bit more space. We will see. I know how fast the Mercedes are because it's my team in the ADAC GT. So, but I hope the best for him.
Thank you.
So Harry Procik, as we say, will be taking over from David Mengsdorf, who is starting that car then on pole position. Alongside him on the front row is going to be the Mercedes that John was mentioning a few moments ago, the Heiko Gravity Charouz car of Dominik Baumann and Maximilian Buch. Interestingly, they are the furthest forward of our championship contenders. There you can see the number 2 machine, and it will be Dominik Baumann starting that car. So it'll be interesting to see how well these Mercedes perform. And Dominik Baumann will, getting in the zone. It will be a rolling start, of course, so that Lamborghini is going to have to be very, very quick when the lights go to green. Unfortunately, we've only got one Rhinos Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini here this weekend. Third on the grid is going to be the second Heiko car. This one is going to be started by Max Nielsen. As I say, they're down in 6th place in the championship, only had a best result this season of a 4th. So despite having brilliant pace, really, it just hasn't worked out for them in the racing at Nogaro or Zolder. But Max Nielsen looking pretty calm and collected in that car as he gets ready to take the start on what is, as we've already said, beautiful morning here in Navarra, about 20-30 minutes south of Pamplona, a couple of hours south of Bilbao. Fourth on the grid, we've got Michael Lyons and Stefano Guy, the first of the AF Corsa Ferraris. So expect them. I think Michael Lyons struggled a little bit yesterday in qualifying. He was saying that he thinks there's definitely more pace to come from that AF Corsa Ferrari once the race comes around.
Well, I'm still convinced that the 458 Ferrari is going to be almost the class of the field, whether it's in GT3 here we're going to watch right now, or in GT1. But of course we've got this thing called balance of performance. Nevertheless, the 458 is such a competitive car in any form of GT racing around the world. You just wonder when it's going to come alive in GT3. We've seen it perform strongly at different points at the first 2 rounds, first in Nogaro and then in Zolder. But to get the kind of domination that one would maybe imagine from Ferrari, it's still to happen.
There you can see the Russian Bear Motorsports car. That is going to be lining up 5th place on the grid, Miguel Toril. One of their best qualifying performances of the season, actually. You can see from that shot, actually, how poor the Audis were in that first qualifying session. The back 2 rows on the grid full of our 4 Audi R8s. So I think there's more pace to come from them, as well as the spectators who've well, they've got here pretty early, actually, haven't they, to watch this race, considering you can see it's packed up there. The grandstand is getting fuller every second. They're all congregating up in the shade, which is a pretty sensible option. There you can see our championship leader, Gaetano Ardagna Perez. He will be starting the car before handing over to Giuseppe Ciro in 6th position on that grid. And then behind him, 7th on the grid, you've got the Science-Lock racing car of Jerome Demey. You can see that silver and blue Audi. Alongside him is Nee Amorim in the white and yellow Audi. And then Mark Sword and Yves Wirtz on the back row of the grid. And
the VW Polo at the very back isn't a part of this GT3 event.
No.
Is it?
No, it's definitely...
But why is it on the grid?
It's definitely not. I imagine it's the following car that's going to follow them once the race gets underway. And there you can see shorts and umbrellas, very much the order of the day as people set up for what is going to be a great day of racing. We've got this 1 hour GT3 race. We've then got a 1 hour GT1 race. We've also got a 1 hour GT3 race coming up later this afternoon. So it's going to be a busy day for the fans, and hopefully it'll be a spectacular day for the fans, because we saw great racing yesterday. Hopefully we will see a similar result today. It's David Mengsdorf then on pole position in that Rhinos Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini, currently 5th in the championship. They weren't out in, well, Rhinos Lippert were, but Mengsdorf and Procik weren't out in Nogaro. They turned up for Zolder and picked up 2 second places, which was an impressive performance from them. But as is the case, probably more so the case with GT3, we're yet to have a straightforward dry race. It's all been about changing weather, dry tyres, slick tyres, wet tyres, who's coming through the field, who's going quick, who's losing it on the slicks in the wet. But I think today, Watty, looking up at the sky, I don't think we're going to get any rain.
Well, I don't think the commentator's curse is going to have any bearing on the weather. It is literally cloudless as we come up to 10:15 on Sunday morning here in Navarra. And there you get a lovely view of the circuit. Turns 2, turns 3. On the outside of turn 2 into turn 3, we had some problems yesterday where the AstroTurf, which is just to the right of that red and white curbing, was being shredded literally by cars going off, particularly cars spinning. So the circuit workers hopefully have got all that resolved, stuck down with super glue to ensure that it doesn't become an issue should anybody be going overly wide or losing it between turns 2 and 3.
Yeah, tricky stuff, that turf on the outside of turn 2. It'll be interesting to see whether we see any of them. The GT3 cars didn't seem to be struggling quite as much as the GT1 cars through turns 1 and 2, most notably the Mercedes, but also we've seen a couple of other cars struggling through there. This is the long back straight on the run down into the hairpin at turn 9. This is where we saw some good battles yesterday, as we say, in GT1. This is the first GT3 race of the weekend, and as a result we're not quite sure what we're going to get. Qualifying was pretty close. It was only a second covering the top 5 cars, so there's still plenty of opportunity for movement. And of course, when they hand over to their second drivers, the second drivers are going to be running at a different pace
Indeed.
to the first drivers, so it could all change around then as well.
There's no doubt about it, and in particular the case of the Audis, where the gentlemen of the bronze drivers were clearly being outclassed here by their either professional, the gold drivers, or the semi-professional silver drivers. Cars just coming out of turn 13 up to, you can see the entry into the pit lane on the left-hand side. And it's this part of the track coming through ultimately the final turn 15 onto the pit straight, where if you do your job properly, you can get a really big advantage in the run up to start-finish line.
So the leading car, the Mercedes SLS, pulls into the pit lane, and this 1 hour race is about to get underway. That Rhinos Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini is going to be on the front row, in pole position on the inside run on the way down into turn 1. Alongside him is going to be Dominic Baumann in the number 1 Heiko Gravity Charouz team. The 5th round of the season, the 5th race of the season, about to get underway. We wait for the lights to go green here in Navarra. A long hold and away we go. It's a very good start actually from Max Nielsen, looking straight to the inside on the run down into turn 1. He's not going to be able to quite get past his teammate, but it's David Mengstorff in the Lamborghini who holds on to the lead. Don't know what happened to Max Nielsen towards the end of that, because he dropped back massively. He was up into 2nd or 3rd place, but has now subsequently dropped right back to battling with the Audis towards the back of the field. So it looks like the two AF Corsa Ferraris have got themselves up into 3rd and 4th position as they come through turn 4 down towards turn 5 for the first time. No moves being made just yet, but David Mengstorff got the job done on the start.
Yeah, did a good job, had to be defensive, but he maintained that position. Max Nielsen just got out shuffled in the turn up into turn 2, turn 3, so they're now making their way around turn 7 down to the tight turn 8, a critical corner again, because it leads on to the second fastest part of the racetrack. You want a good drive out of it to get up maximum speed. As you come down, then it's hard on the brakes into turn 9. The two Ferraris looking, well, diving down the inside. Can they make it without contact?
That was a close one, wasn't it? That was Gaetano Ardagna Perez desperately trying to have a look at getting past Michael Lyons, who nearly didn't make it into the circuit, in fact, this morning, because he got trapped in a lift in a car park, and he had to be rescued by the concierge. So a little bit of drama already for Michael Lyons. Nearly had a little bit more drama down at turn 9.
Just another excuse to go to the Racing Drivers Book of Excuses, written by that famous Australian race driver, Tim Schenken.
So through the final corner comes our race leader, and David Mengstorff isn't pulling away really up at the front. This is looking like it could develop into a good race, because that Mercedes is right up behind. There is Max Nielsen. He has dropped down into something like 7th position. Across the line they come. It's Mengstorff leading, Dominic Baumann 2nd, Michael Lyons up into 3rd place from 4th on the grid, Ardagna Perez in 4th, Miguel Torrell in 5th, 6th for Nii Amorim, 7th for Max Nielsen, 8th for Jerome Demey, 9th for Mark Sword, and 10th for Yves Bertz. But the 1st and 2nd place battle is very much where it's at. Only 0.4 of a second separating them as they cross the line.
Yes, and these first three cars making a small break. They're just getting slightly ahead of Ardanga Perez, and the second of those two, of course, the Ferraris, and then the rest of the field beginning to separate slightly as we go on to the second lap of this 1 hour race. Coming through turn 7 once again. Max Nielsen still not being able to make any move on the Audi 14 near Amaro, and somewhat surprising because I know the pace of these two Mercedes. We saw it in the second qualifying segment on GT3. They were way quicker than anybody else, but it's not translating at this stage into out-and-out race pace.
Yep, so into the double right-hander they come through turn 10, then into the tight left-hander at turn 11. No moves being made just yet, although Ardanga Perez now is starting to come under pressure from Miguel Torrell, I would suggest, as they come towards the end of this lap. Also, Michael Lyons is now, after a bit of a shaky opening lap, he's now starting to get the hammer down and has closed into the back of Dominic Baumann, so we may well see a three-way fight for the lead before too long. So it's currently David Mengsdorf leading as he comes out of the final corner to complete lap 2, where that Merc is right with him.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it was a good exit for both, in fact, the Lamborghini and the Mercedes, and Michael Lyons joining in and drawing this battle into a three manufacturer fight. But again, the Mercedes cannot make an inch on the Lamborghini up the hill into turn 1, flat out, of course, through turn 1. Then be careful when you get off the throttle into turn 2 on the brakes. And there you can see the first three cars just beginning to make a gap. There's about a half a second or so. Well, in fact, there's a 1.3 seconds as they came across the line between third and fourth place.
Michael Lyons was the quickest man of anyone on that last lap. The Race Drivers Incorporated backed driver is really starting to get the hammer down now, and there you can see those two Ferraris are starting to battle. Miguel Torrell right up behind Gaetano Ardanga Perez now as they exit turn 8 down the long back straight. Of course, the two 458s are going to have pretty similar straight line speed. They're both fairly sleek cars, so should make a decent slipstream. Torrell looking towards the inside, not close enough to make the move. As you say, I'm surprised Max Nielsen isn't really starting to hassle the back of Niamarim in the battle that you could just see coming into shot behind. So we'll keep an eye out to see how that develops. But Ardanga Perez not really troubling the apex at turn 11. And it's not going to be too long before Miguel Torrell is right up behind him. But up at the front, we've still got these three cars running line astern. 55 minutes to go, so plenty of time to see how things progress. Michael Lyons' charge perhaps just slows a little bit on this lap. It doesn't look like he's managed to close in the gap. I would suggest the quickest man on this last lap was our second place man, Dominic Baumann, although David Mengsdorf has done the quickest middle sector of anyone. So across the line they come. Mengsdorf does a 40.87 and Baumann does a 40.88. Lyons dropping 0.2 of a second to the lead 2 on that last lap.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're running that close to another car, you're going to have a 1/10 of a second one way or the other in terms of your lap time on a given lap. So the front three cars are running pretty much at the same pace. No one driver of the three is capable of either making the break and getting away, as in the case of David Mengsdorf in the Lamborghini. Yet Dominic Baumann in the Mercedes-Benz, who I thought would have been a stronger threat to the Lamborghini than it currently is showing, is stuck in the middle between the Ferrari and the Lamborghini. So the main battle right now is going on for 4th and 5th place, with Ardanga Perez and Torrell in the Russian Bear Motorsport Ferrari.
So out onto the back straight they come, and you can see that he is just starting to edge away now, perhaps David Mengsdorf. Certainly that gap between the front three has stabilised more than anything, but Miguel Torrell is definitely the man on the move in that Russian Bear Motorsports car. Torrell, who is the only Spaniard in a Russian team. Oh, Ardanga Perez goes wide. Torrell gets excited, stamps on the throttle pedal. He's got a bit of a foot like a traction engine on that throttle pedal that time around.
Well, I mean, it was the way he turned into the corner. He was so aggressive on the turn in. The whole car, it looked like it was going to pivot around the nose. The back started to slide, but he managed to keep it in control. At the same time as Ardanga Perez was struggling with running too wide in the exit of the corner. So two totally independent and almost diametrically opposite handling conditions from the two identical Ferraris.
Yep. So, well, here's a look at the replay. He gets excited, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, look at the way he just launches the car. I mean, in fairness, he did a very good job in controlling the tail end of the car, because once a heavy GT car like that starts to lose traction, you get the pendulum effect and it just continues round. Runs very wide into turn 2, makes a mistake, on the entry into the corner, and again just giving Denga Perez that little bit of breathing space. Maybe that's a certain amount of frustration coming from the Russian Bear Motorsport Ferrari, or maybe it's an issue of maybe just using the tyre a little bit too aggressively with the car with a lot of fuel on board, maybe just running the tyres a bit too warm when they would like to feel a little cooler.
Drive-through penalty for car 15, Jerome Demey, for not holding position before the start, so he's currently in 8th place and he'll have to take a little drive-through.
I saw that as the cars were coming onto the grid, and what I reckon Demey was trying to do was actually drop back from the main grid of cars and then get on the throttle flat out to catch the cars that were in the pack before the lights went to green, so that when the lights did go green, he would maybe be carrying another 15 miles an hour and therefore have the advantage going up the hill into turn 1. But clearly the stewards were on the case, saw what he was doing, and have got a drive-through penalty.
So Michael Lyons was the quickest man of anyone in that first sector, taking 0.3 of a second out of David Mengsdorf up at the front. There you can see the 16 car of Mark Stort. He is in 9th place, but there is Michael Lyons. So the Mercedes is starting to drop away from the Lamborghini up at the front, but the Ferrari is starting to close in into the pits for his drive-through penalty. Comes Jerome Demey through the little chicane at the end of the pit lane. That time around, well, Lyons, he went quickest in the first sector, but lost a bit of time in sectors 2 and 3. So that threat that I thought may come hasn't come just yet, as cruising through the pit lane comes Jerome Demey, and that really is going to not be the best thing for his race, although Dino Naladi would take it.
Yeah, but it's interesting that the Sansalok Racing team, or Demey, I don't know which of the two are going to be responsible, but to use, when you're at the back of the grid, to drop back like that, maybe coming into the penultimate corner or the last corner onto the straight, which is what Demey did, was clearly done to give him an advantage that when the lights went out and he had then closed back up to the pack, he would have been running literally 10 to 15 kilometers or miles an hour quicker than the main pack was. So it's something you could only really do if you're at the very back of the grid.
Well, let's have a look and see if we can spot exactly what happened on the left-hand side. Well, yeah, he's not really in formation, is he? So there he goes, Jerome Demey.
In fact, if anything, it was more like Mark Stewart and the other sister car, but they were hanging back coming through turn 14, and but by the time they got to where the start effectively is, they had made that gap, they'd closed it down. But in turn 14 into 15, there was quite a long gap between those two Audis and the main bunch of the field.
Yeah, I think for Demey it was even more a case of not being in 2x2. He was trying to make it 3x3. Here comes the battle for the race lead and then followed by 4th and 5th positions. Max Nielsen is starting to get the grips on Nee Amorim, I think. On that last lap, Nielsen did his personal best lap of the race, but Nee Amorim is lapping pretty quickly as well, it has to be said. He's doing 41.2s and the leaders are only doing 40.9, so very impressive performance from Nee Amorim. He's really getting to grips with that car as the top 3 begin to just pull away from one another at the moment. Looks as though Miguel Toro was taking a nice wide line into turn 3 to try and get a decent run out, but there you can see Michael Lyons. Oh yeah, those two are very close, aren't they, for 4th and 5th? That's certainly where the action is going to be before too long, I would have guessed, because these top 3 are just spreading out a little bit. I think it's when the second drivers take over we're going to see some movement here, because Michael Lyons keeps... he's gone very wide on the way into that corner.
Yeah, but he
lost a bit of traction.
But he also went very wide coming out of turn 7, and maybe to some degree that slightly unsettled him going into turn 8. But again, as they come down the back straight, you can see that these first 3 cars, Constantine.
Let's hear from Maximilian Buch. His teammate is currently running in 2nd.
Max, Dominic's fighting hard to hold off the Ferrari and take the Lamborghini. Will he be able to take that top spot?
Yeah, I think so. He's doing a good job. After the good start, I think we have every possibility to fight for the win. And I think he's doing good. When he saves tires, we can be on top at the end of the race. So I hope for the best, and let's see what happens.
Thank you.
Maximilian Buch, that is going to be taking over. So in this long race, of course, we see tyre changes in GT1, but in GT3 it's just a driver change, which means there's a lot more emphasis placed on saving the tyres.
Yes, and that may in fact be part of what we're seeing here. It is maybe a little bit of a conservation race going on as the Russian Bear Motorsport looks to try and take that 4th place away from the second of the AF Corsa cars, are now right on the gearbox of the Ferrari through turn 1. Watch for turn 2, and then the dive down the inside, not close enough to make it, but that's probably the most pressure that Ardenga Perez has had to deal with so far in this 1 hour race. 47 minutes or so of the race remain. And
so this tyre issue is something that Miguel Toro needs to be careful of as well, because if he absolutely destroys the tyres trying to push as hard as he can to try and get past this Ferrari, when he hands over to Sergei Ryabov, those tyres aren't going to be in the best condition, which may see them dropping off towards the end of the race. Especially, it's not too bad in this race perhaps, because we've got a slightly cooler track and ambient temperature, but certainly this afternoon when they race.
It is, and I mean the problem that you got is when your car starts the race, there's a given volume of fuel. Normally it's done by weight rather than by litres or gallons in the case of maybe Michael Lyon's car. So the fuel weight is low, it's diminishing as the race goes on, which makes the job of the tyres that little bit easier. But at the start of a race, it is always easy to overdrive the car and put massive load, massive heat shock into the tyre, and therefore you any benefit that you might hope to have had once your star driver, your gold driver, gets in for the driver change, then it's pretty much diminished.
So the fans watching on, because Miguel Toro is starting to get a little bit frustrated, I think, behind Gaetano Ardagna Perez. He's been trying to find his way around him for 8 laps now, and all of a sudden it's brought Nii Amorim and Max Nielsen behind in the Mercedes to the party. Looks to the inside, he's got a decent amount of straight line speed, but he needs to stay in that slipstream really if he wants to capitalise on it. Into turn 1 they come. Is the AF Corsa Ferrari going to struggle to get the nose in? No, he's not. He gets in there nice and quickly, and Max Nielsen, I think, is going to be launching an attack on Nii Amorim before too long. So this is a nice little battle developing. There's hardly anything between them. Is this going to be a lunge down into turn 5? No, it's not. He doesn't quite take the exit speed through turn 4 that he needs to make that move stick. But the AF Corsa car is driving cleverly, covering the inside line.
Yes, I mean, it's a defensive line into turn 6. But the penalty is, of course, you're slightly slower off that corner into turn 7 and turn 8, and it allows Toro once again to get within the range. But look, Ardenga Perez on the throttle a little bit earlier and able to pull again that sort of toing and froing. But look what's happened now. The Audi has been drawn right up to the tail of that Russian Bear Motorsport Ferrari, and Max Nielsen in the second of the two Giroux's Motorsport Mercedes-Benz is in this a 4-way battle. What was a 2-way battle 3 laps ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 10 minutes before the pit stop window opens. Toril really kind of understeered his way out of turn 8, and that was what allowed the Audi and the Mercedes to close right in. And I think Max Nielsen looks like he's going to be the man on the move out of any of them, because he's really starting to get into the groove now after qualifying his car third on the grid with a 1 minute 40.6. He's currently lapping in the 1 minute 42 dead. So really there is much more pace in that Mercedes. Here he comes then, right up behind Nii Amorim in the Audi, looks to the inside line. Amorim not going particularly defensive. Is the Mercedes, it's one of the heaviest cars out there, but it's got the job done into turn 1. How quickly can he now close in those in front?
Well, certainly it was an easy pass, because he did all the good work coming through turn 15, got the drive off the corner, used the slipstream from the Audi, got alongside on the inside, up the hill into turn 1. Now he's got these two Ferraris squabbling over 3rd and 4th positions, and that's going to be an interesting little view to see whether Doral will manage to do anything with Ardenga Perez again at the Venezuelan-driven Ferrari as we go back to the lead. Now the lead is suddenly beginning to look like it's being evaporated, because the Mercedes is beginning to close onto the back of David Mengstorff in that leading Lamborghini, and that gap between 2nd and 3rd has opened up. It's now 1.8 seconds between 2nd and 3rd, and Michael Lyons 2.5 seconds behind.
Here comes the look up the inside from Miguel Toril, so close to making it through, but well, Ardenga Perez managed to pull a little bit of a buffer on that last lap, but it's just evaporated straight away.
But where Ardenga Perez is doing it is coming out of turn 8. He seems to get the car into the corner and off the corner slightly better than Miguel Toril's doing it, but it's Max Nielsen who got past the Audi up the hill 1 lap ago. He's going to try and use the same benefit, the slipstream, get a good drive off final turn, and he goes, well, I was going to say he looked like he was going back to go into the pits, but he just tried to make a very acute exit to give himself position. He gets well over to the left-hand side of the track, where the Ferrari more in the middle of the track into turn 15. Now the Mercedes uses the power and the acceleration of the car to try get under the rear wing of the Ferrari, but not quite as close as he was to the Audi 1 lap ago.
No, it's not going to be a move on this particular trip into turn 1 for Max Nielsen. So every time Miguel Toril has to defend, it allows Gaetano Ardagna Perez just to pull away a little bit. You can see the gap here, but I would suggest by the time they get round to turn 8 and 9, that gap will have evaporated, because Toril doesn't have to consider defending from the Mercedes through this sequence of corners. It's also closing down at the front. Harry Procik, you can see, leading the race, set the fastest lap of the race on lap 4, but over the past few laps, David Mengsdorf it is in that car, over the past few laps he has been reeled in by Dominic Baumann, and never more so than coming down now on this particular lap. The gap was 0.6 of a second between them as they crossed the line, but it's much, much less than that now. It's probably only a tenth or two as they come through turn 9, then into 10 and 11.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like this the last 2 or 3 laps. Again, you can see the Mercedes Dominic Baumann trying to use all the advantage that he senses he's got and work against whatever the weaknesses that David Mengsdorf's having to deal with, in terms of whether it's just simply grip or lack of grip, whichever it may be. But it's given Dominic Baumann the incentive to start to hunt that Lamborghini down, and just a case of where do you place your car to try and get advantage off this last corner. It's a slightly uphill, off camber right hand corner, easy to be a little bit too aggressive into the corner, lose your pace, so it's a slow in, quick out version.
So a tenth of a second gained on that last lap by Dominic Baumann in that Mercedes. How's this battle going for 4th place? Well, it's still, they're queuing up to try and get past Ardagna Perez. As we saw, he's going to have a little look to the inside, Miguel Toril, but that's just going to try and put Ardagna Perez off through turn 1, then under braking for turn 2 and 3. There's nothing he can do about the AF Corsa Ferrari in front of him just yet, but they're all concertinaing up. And he's going to have a look up the inside into turn 4, is he? That's not really an overtaking opportunity, but it's put Ardagna Perez wide. This might allow Maximilian Buch to have a little look as they come down it. Sorry, Max Nielsen to have a little look. He's going to try and stick it around the outside. That's not going to work. This is going to give him, though, the best position for the run out down the... Oh, no, he hasn't been able to carry that momentum through the corner.
I mean, again, you saw everybody much closer in turn 3, and we thought we were going to see it. Toril in the Russian Bear Motorsport Ferrari gain the advantage off turn 3. There's a bit of bodywork lying on the side of the track, just off the edge of the track, as these 4 cars once again come down into turn 9. But an indication that the Russian Bear Motorsport Ferrari clearly now is putting a major threat onto Ardagna Perez in the AF Corsa car. And Max Nielsen, he could have been the main beneficiary had there been any collision or any contact between these 2 Ferraris, because he was in pole position to snatch that 4th position away.
So there's our race leader, David Mengsdorf, but he is currently holding off Dominic Baumann fairly comfortably, I would say. This is the battle that we've really seen develop. It's 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. 4th for the 50 AF Corsa car, 5th for the number 4, 4th for Italia, Russian Bear Motorsports, 5th place. 6th place for Max Nielsen in that Mercedes, 7th place for Niamarim. He's very, very close this time, is Miguel Toril. He's going to look to the inside. He's not close enough really to make the move. He's not, because they're so evenly matched, the 2, 4, 5. It's all big chunk of curb. That's going to send him wide. Doesn't make the apex, and this is the chance now for Miguel Toril. Through he goes, and he's going to take on the grass there. I'm not quite sure what Ardagna Perez thinking was. He's now going to lose out to the Mercedes as well, and possibly the Audi if he can shuffle up the inside into turn 5. Ardagna Perez 4th to 7th.
I mean, that was just a case of stress overload for Ardagna Perez. He got it wrong in turn 3. That offered up the opportunity for Toril and the Mercedes and the Audi to just file through. Look, watch again in turn 3.
I'm not really sure what happens.
He misses the apex by about 10 feet, and then he drives aggressively to the left. I don't know why he had to respond so aggressively. He put himself then into no man's land, out of sync. Oh, what's going on? What's happening? Where am I? And the Mercedes goes past, and the Audi follows through into turn 5, and all of a sudden, in the space of 2 corners, he's gone from 4th to 7th.
So now can Miguel Toril begin to pull away, or is Max Nielsen going to stay with him and continue fighting? There's David Mengsdorf then up at the front. We've got 3 minutes before the pit stop window opens, and he's never been more than 0.7 of a second clear at the front of this field, David Mengsdorf. So it's very much a battle that's going to run and run as they come across the line. He's now more than 7/10 of a second ahead for the first time in the race, up to 9.5 of a second. Michael Lyons, despite having the fastest sectors in Sector 1 and Sector 2 during this race, is dropping back and is now 3.5 seconds off the lead of the race, whereas he was very much in a three-way fight at the start. There's Dagna Perez then, down to 7th place now.
Yeah, and just one lap ago he was in 4th place, but he got it wrong in turn 2 into turn 3, missed the apex, and that just set up those 3 cars with the opportunity to file past. And literally, he was blown a fuse.
It all started here, didn't it? Because he hit that curve, got airborne, and then sent the car sideways.
He hit the curb, then ran very wide, then he missed the apex in turn 3. But that's the problem. You make your commitment into turn 2. He was aggressive in the bunch of curb he took. Consequently, the car lost grip, moved out to the left, and that was the beginning of the end of his 4th place.
So now Miguel Toril is going to be coming under a reasonable amount of pressure, I think, from Max Nielsen. He considers going defensive, just making sure he can see the Mercedes in his left wing mirror.
How could you miss the Mercedes? It's so big.
It is indeed a very large race car, especially when you see it next to something like the McLaren. Yeah, of course, the squad watching on. Russian Bear watching on, of course, because that is the Russian Bear motorsport car. As they come through the left-hander at turn 12, up towards turn 13.
Say it.
No, I'm not going to say it. Max Nielsen, you can say it. Do you want to say it? Max Nielsen is right up behind. Oh, he gets a little bit wiggly as he tries to put the power down on the exit. And, well, you can see how much time they were losing before Dagna Perez, because he's started to drop back pretty quickly. Nii Amorim really going for it.
Well, and you say that, but in fact now Dagna Perez has got the pressure removed from him. He can then do what he's probably most comfortable doing, which is driving effectively on his own. And just looking at the lap times, the last lap, to see whether Dagna Perez, he did a 1:42.4, identical to the Mercedes, and only a 1/10 of a second behind Toril in the Russian Bear Motorsport car. So he's actually pretty much back to the pace he was. It was just suddenly when he had that pressure up in turn 3 2 laps ago, and it all went wrong, and then the fuse blew and he didn't know what to do or where to put the car, and it was suddenly, when you have pressure taken off you, it's absolutely wonderful. The feeling of relief, it's almost like going to confessional.
Yeah, well, I've just finished my degree, so I know what taking the pressure off feels like. So down into turn 8 they come, and this could be a chance for Max Nielsen. It's difficult to quite make out exactly where the Mercedes is stronger, because he's struggling a little bit down the straights compared to the 458.
It may well be the car is stronger everywhere, but the problem that we know from time infinitum, that if you get caught by another car and you lose your momentum, you're going to run at the pace of the car ahead of you, and all you can find as a way to get past is by, if you can drop back marginally, maybe by half a second or so, and then just make that charge again. But it is something, when you have 4 cars like this, the pace is dictated by the lead car.
And it all could change now, because the pit stop window is open. Is anyone going to dive in? Yes, 3 of them are. 3 of that 4-way battle. So into the pits comes Max Nielsen to hand over to Mika Vähämäki. Nii Amorim comes in to hand over to Cesar Campanico, and Gaetano Dagna Perez comes in to hand over to Giuseppe Ciro. He's already changed his transponder over Hazard Dagna Perez. That's very helpful of him. So Giuseppe Ciro will be taking over. We've also got Mark Sword coming in to hand over to Jonathan Hershey at the back. You could just see coming in as well. So, is this going to be the stop that gets the Heiko Gravity Charouz number 2 car ahead of the Russian Bear Motorsports car when Sergei Ryabov takes over?
Because there are penalties for some of these cars with their various pit stops, so we have to keep an eye on that. There will be added time, 10 seconds, 15 seconds and more in some cases.
So there you can see the pit stops being taken. As you say, they are governed how long their pit stops have to be. The number 2 car doesn't actually have any effect on it. The car number 1, Dominic Baumann, they have an 80-second mandatory pit stop. So every mandatory pit stop is 60 seconds, but the number 1 car will have an extra 15, which will take it at, 65 seconds, I should say. Dominic Baumann will have an extra 15, David Mengsdorf will have an extra 10, and Dagna Perez will have an extra 5. So when Dagna Perez comes into the pits, he could find himself even further off the back of the field. But no mandatory pit stop lengths differ for these guys, but Nii Amrim I just saw has got ahead of that number 2 Mercedes. So the Audi is now in front of the Mercedes.
So we've now got almost an entirely new event going to take place, because once this round of pit stops has been cleared through, as the Ferrari comes out,
this is the race leaders, aren't
very
they?
close.
So
indeed.
he's the Ferrari obviously is just coming out of the pits, and he's going to have to try and squeeze around the outside. I wonder, you know, if the 50 car, I wonder if Giuseppe Ciro knows that these guys are actually a lap ahead. That's going to be very interesting to see.
As far as he's concerned, he's back in the race.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
if he can run at the pace of these cars, other than he is in the middle of a battle, and if he's perceived to be holding them up, he will be getting a waved blue flag.
Well, he is holding them up. Look at there's contact between them, and this is not good news at all for Dominic Baumann, because he is in the battle for the race lead. David Mengsdorf has absolutely gone. Michael Lyons coming in to hand over to Stefano Guy. There's our first place car, the orange Lamborghini, and there is second place, still trying to get past the back marker. And through he goes. So I wonder if there's a bit of team play there, but we'll have to wait and see, because out of the pits comes the number 50 car then, which has now been taken at 51 car, I should say, which has now been handed over by Stefano Guy. But yeah, that time lost could play into the hands of this 51 Ferrari.
Well, I mean, it would be nice to think that team orders were being played out as part of the sport, but I just think quite simply it was a matter of the Ferrari came out and it just saw literally a red mist. I mean, I said cars all around him. He's a racing driver. He was about to not concede ground. He was not going to back off. If they want to find a way past, they're going to have to drive their way around the outside.
So across the line comes our race leader, David Mengsdorf. The second place car has pitted of Dominic Baumann, and so when he comes in, he will have a 15-second penalty for being, well, not penalty I should say, but you know, it's 15 seconds longer because of the speed he had last time out in Zolder. So here comes the driver change. So I'm imagining actually we will see up into second position at least go the 51 car of Stefano Guy that we're seeing there. He is going to benefit firstly from that Mercedes being held up, secondly because the Mercedes has to have a longer time in the pit stop. Equally, the number 1 car has to have a longer pit stop as well. David Mengsdorf, when he comes in, will have a 10-second extra penalty. So we could see that 51 car of Stefano Guy moving into the lead of the race potentially.
I think anything is possible right now. Stefano Guy comes out of turn 13. As we go back to currently still leading the race, David Mengsdorf in the Lamborghini, lapping now in the high 1 minute 48s. In fact, the Ferrari behind it in second place is about a tenth of a second quicker. So that Russian Bear Motorsport car marginally closing down the gap. It is 19.4 seconds.
So the Mercedes,
a long way behind.
The Mercedes comes out of the pits and through goes the 51 car of Stefano Guy. So that is a change of position. Guy is now up into a net second position. It could be the lead of the race depending on how quickly David Mengsdorf can hand over to Harry Procik. He's staying out, so I think we might see Mengsdorf staying out until the very end of the session, I'd have thought. And Max Nielsen, having come out of the pits in 5th place, has set the fastest first sector of anyone on that last lap. So when the pit stop window closes, we'll be able to get a proper idea of exactly what's happened. But Stefano Guy then, Mengsdorf comes across the line in the lead of the race, and then we'll have to wait and see when he pits. Will he come out in the lead, or will it be Stefano Guy who inherits the lead of this race?
Well, I think we're going to see Mengsdorf staying out as long as he can maintain a good lap time and he's got clear air. And then when Harry Procik takes over, they will hope that they put that car back out into the lead, and nobody is making any inroads into the gap. Currently it's a 19.8 second gap between first and second, and those two cars have yet to make their pit stop. So looks pretty good for the Lamborghini now. It will all depend on where the Stefano Guy Ferrari, the car shared by Michael Lyons, when this all filters through, where that car ultimately will end up. There we are, looking at car 51, Stefano Guy behind the wheel of the Ferrari.
Yeah, that is the key car in this pit stop window. That's the other key car, David Mengsdorf. So when will he come into the pit lane? Maximilian Buch, well, in fact, looking at that, Maximilian Buch has actually managed to come out ahead of Stefano Guy then in that pit stop strategy as well, and he's only 1.4 seconds ahead of Stefano Guy, so we missed that one. No, Guy has got past now, so I think that was...
Just we're waiting on the update on the timing and scoring. It was just the overlap on the pit stops.
When they come into the pits, the timing and scoring doesn't up to date till they come round again, so apologies for getting your hopes up, any Mercedes fans out there. It's definitely Stefano Guy who is possibly going to inherit the lead of this race. David Mengsdorf stays out again. I would suggest he might do 1 or 2 more laps before handing over to that man, Harry Prochik. So really, he's got what's he got? A 50-second lead.
There's a 50-second gap between third place Stefano Guy now and the race leader David Mengsdorf. So it looks to me, if it's going to be a mandatory pit stop, and there's a 50-second gap, that the Ferrari number 51 is going to have an approximately 10-second advantage over what is the present race leader.
Yep, so it's looking very, very good for that Michael Lyons and Stefano Guy car that's turning through turn 9 now, the AF Corsa Ferrari. It depends how quickly David Mengsdorf can lap, because he was a second quicker on that last lap than Stefano Guy. So that'll be interesting. And Miguel Toril is yet to stop in the Russian Bear Motorsport car either.
2 minutes remaining for the pit stop, so they can finish this lap. And I think basically they're going to have to come in this lap. I don't think they can finish this lap and complete another lap and get in and get out before the window closes. So they're going to have to come in now.
Yep, so there is the Lamborghini. Harry Prochik waiting to get in, doing a little dance to get himself warmed up. And surely we will see this car peeling to the right-hand side in a few moments' time. When he comes out of the right-hander at turn 13, he will peel into the pit lane. Well, they'll have to, actually, because he won't have time to go around again. So this is where we will find out who is in the lead of this race. The Russian Bear Motorsport car will come in as well. So into the pits he comes, David Mengsdorf, driven a pretty decent stint up at the front of this race.
I tell you what, it's going to be very close. Is that second place Ferrari of Miguel Toril? They're 21 seconds behind on that last lap coming into the pit lane. To get the Ferrari in, serviced, get it back out before the pit stop window closes is going to be a close call.
Yeah, that's true actually. So into the pits they come. There comes David Mengsdorf out of the car. Harry Prochik hops in, and Prochik, the Austrian, taking over from Mengsdorf, the German. There's Stefano Guy then, and well, if he does inherit the lead of this race, he hasn't got much of an advantage over Maximilian Buch, and in fact, on that last lap, Maximilian Buch was 1.2 seconds quicker than Stefano Guy. So this really is all up in the air in this FIA GT3 European Championship race. They come through the left-hander at turn 12 now, as we see the Lamborghini getting strapped in. I don't imagine the Lamborghini is going to emerge in the lead of this race, because into the final corner, into the penultimate corner I should say, comes Stefano Guy. They're saying start up the engine. He's got to wait for the man with the stopwatch to say go, 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 and then he will go, go, go. So down the pit lane he comes. Stefano Guy is just exiting the final corner. This is going to be close, but it's not going to be close enough for the Lamborghini. Stefano Guy moves into the lead of the race now, and he takes with him Maximilian Buch, who is lapping 1.2 seconds a lap quicker. So the Ferrari leads, Mercedes second, third place is that orange Lamborghini. Is this Ferrari going to get out in fourth place of Sergei Ryabov? No, he's not. I think Mika Vähämäki is just going to get past him, but this is the battle for the lead, and 1.2 seconds a lap quicker at the moment is Maximilian Buch.
Well, a little battle here now for the lead between the Ferrari and the Mercedes-Benz. The Lamborghini didn't quite do enough. David Mengsdorf, who led the race all the way from the very moment the lights went out, but wasn't able to open up enough of a gap to enable the car when Harry Prochik got into it to retain the lead. And it's Stefano Guy. There we see the car, the Lamborghini sweeping by.
Well, this is where the number one car lost time, didn't it? This is what cost the Mercedes the lead,
you're right,
because he was being held up by the 50 car of Giuseppe Ciro, and here they're even going to have a bit of contact here. Well, no doubt this time lost was what has cost him the lead of this race. And there you can see, coming out behind the sister AF Corsa car, was Maximilian Buch. So the battle for the lead is very much on. There you can see Giuseppe Ciro down in ninth place now. Let's hear from Michael Lyons. His teammate is leading the race. Let's see what he has to say.
Michael, did your sister car assist you in taking advantage over the Mercedes?
Honestly, I don't know. At the start we were quite close, and then I was able to build a good gap against Tanho, and then in the last few laps we were just very close with the Mercedes and the Lambo, but there was nowhere where we were quick enough on the straight to be able to have a run into any of the corners. Unfortunately, the way balance and everything has worked out. I think we did a good job to be where we are, and we're in contention at the moment, so fingers crossed for the rest of the race.
Thank you.
So through turn 3, and this is the battle for the lead of the race. Stefano Guy in the 51A, of course, of Ferrari. Maximilian Buch in second place in the number 1 Heiko Motorsport Gravity Churu Racing Team.
Yeah, Stefano Guy, I thought, looked a little bit tentative coming into turn 3 as we see this battle with the Ferrari and the Audi. All of a sudden, there's an Audi coming alive as we now go to the professional drivers rather than the gentleman drivers.
Yeah, Jonathan Hershey, that is, challenging Sergei Ryabov for 6th position. But here's the battle for the race lead. Stefano Guy exiting down the back straight. Is he going to pull to the inside and go defensive? He is just sticking it in the middle of the road just to make sure that there's going to be no last-minute lunge from Maximilian Buch, which there isn't at the moment. But surely it can't be long before Buch begins to create an overtaking opportunity. Jonathan Hershey.
I think the place to watch is this battle going on. Not an awful lot's going to happen here between turns 10 and all the way up to 15. But it will be up the straight into turns 2 and 3 as we look back at Hershey trying to get down the inside of the Ferrari into turn 9, and that's how you do it.
Well, he's just at the fastest lap of the race on his first lap out of the pit, so 1 minute 40.325. So very strong performance from Jonathan Hershey. He's going to be rapidly closing in on he's only got a second, I think, up the road to Cesar Campanico. Here's the battle for the lead, and this is going to be a great run out of the final corner for the Mercedes. Stefano Guy needs to cover the inside line ASAP because that Mercedes took a nice wide line into the final corner. He hasn't quite got the straight line speed. That is where he's going to struggle, I think.
Well, he's going to have to make it a move into turn 2, try and get that Mercedes. This car, the silver Mercedes-Benz, has been very strong up here all weekend. Again, the pace of the Ferrari. Look how slow the Ferrari is in turn 3. Stefano Guy is really struggling. Rear end grip of that Ferrari is beginning to evaporate.
Down into turn 5 they come. And once again, just covering the inside line of Stefano Guy. This is the kind of area where the Mercedes might fancy a move. Stefano Guy knows that, covers the inside line. And he's getting very, very tail happy as he tries to get the power down as well. This is a very, very interesting fight. He's going so defensive into turn 8, and this is going to compromise his run out no end.
Absolutely. I mean, all he's done is said, look, do you want to pass me? Well, I'm going to make it easy for you, because his line into turn 8 was so in the middle of the road. But of course, he's been very defensive. Now he's got to be very careful that once you make a move from one side of the track to the other, that you don't compromise yourself. Again, look at that into turn 10. The Mercedes getting alongside, under brakes into turn 11. Not the right place to do it, but it's the cutback, the undercut, that he's trying to operate.
Well, Stefano Guy just about managed to get enough power down on the exit to avoid the undercut, but that was very, very close indeed. Is this going to be a late move up the inside into 13? It was brave.
No, there's no point in trying to make a move. Maximilian Buch, he should know that there are certain parts of the track, unless you are alongside the car. Now, he's got an opportunity here because his line is a much better line. He'll have a better exit speed out of turn 15 because we're seeing Giro having to go defensive. But again, look, the gap isn't sufficiently narrow or small to take advantage of the pace of the Mercedes.
He hasn't got the straight line speed, I don't think, so it's going to have to be, I think, you might not like them, but it's going to have to be a late lunge, I think, into one of the corners, because down the straights he just doesn't have the pace.
You see how much look how much Giro slows down. I mean, he's almost going about 10 kilometers an hour slower at the apex than the Mercedes is capable of doing.
Is this is where the Mercedes is going to be strong. Thinks about a little look to the inside. The back end steps out on him. He keeps it all together. Is he going to be able to? Stefano Guy covers the inside line. He's defending fairly well as Stefano Guy. He's putting his car in all the right places. This is going to be frustrating Maximilian Buch as they come down into turn 8 now. You can see the pace on the last 3 laps has been pretty much equal because Buch is unable to get through. Guy goes straight to the inside line. I mean, shuts the door.
As a racing driver, man, he should be looking and making sure that he gets his car in position in turn 8 to take advantage of his corner speed exit and put the Ferrari under pressure. Even if the guy, if Giro goes to the right-hand side of the track, nevertheless, the Mercedes should have the momentum off turn 8 to be able to get alongside and outbrake the Ferrari down into turn 9.
So into turn 12, we saw the Mercedes line up a move into 13 last time. Is he going to decide that was going to be the way? No, it's not. So we saw a couple of moves last year, I should say, into the final corner. We haven't seen any so far, but guys covering it, this is the chance.
Well, I mean, he's driving in the middle of the racetrack. The Mercedes has clearly got the potential to be the quicker car of the two. So Maximilian Buch's got to think, where am I strong? Well, pretty much everywhere. The place where the Ferrari is weak is turn 3. So you've got to work on the guy coming out of turn 3, try and get him into turn 5. If that doesn't work, you can see how defensive Stefano Guy is having to be in turn 6 into turn 7. Again, work on him there. Give him a really hard time. Now use the power and the grip the Mercedes has got out of turn 3. Try and just maintain the momentum through 4. Nothing you can do there. The gap has opened up sufficiently from the Ferrari to have a little bit of a breathing space. But here, he'll go to the left of the racetrack. The Mercedes will go wide out to the right. Now on the cutback, get yourself in position, not for turn 6 or 7, but it's turn 8, the corner that we're coming up to now. The Ferrari will stay on the right-hand side of the track, the Mercedes on the left. Here is where Buch should be hard on the power and using the extra grip the Mercedes has got to sweep past the Ferrari, but it's not happening.
No, it is not happening just yet. Is all this allowing Harry Procek to close in? Yes, by about 0.6 of a second a lap, that third place Lamborghini. So before too long, well, 3 seconds he's got to close in at 0.6 of a second a lap. He needs to find, if he can find a smidge more pace, he may well be in with a shout. But these two look like they're going to, it's going to be a mistake, isn't it, from Stefano Guy? I think
Stefano Guy he's got bubble gum for a
Here he comes up the inside into turn 13. He keeps looking like he's going to try it, but he just backs out of it.
And there Stefano Guy makes a fundamental error, which opens up a clean overtaking opportunity into turn 13. Forget it. Now, again, get track position. Manfred Buch has got, Maximilian Buch's got good track position out of turn 15. Look at the drive off the corner. You can see how much quicker he was in acceleration. Get under the rear wing of the car, put him under pressure, force him to drive offline, so when he gets to turn 2, the car will be unstable. We know the back of the Ferrari currently has not got an awful lot of grip, and as he's on the brakes, turning the steering, and I mean the off power, another opportunity just to create the pressure. Now drive the Mercedes, put the power on, force him to make an error.
So into turn 4 they come. Interestingly, if they stay in this order, it will bring these two cars level on points in the championship, because there's 25 points for the win, 18 points for second place, and there's 7 points separating them currently in second and third positions in the championship. I think it would move them into joint first position actually in the championship. So it's a very important battle this, as once again Guy goes defensive. He'll then drive straight to the right hand side of the circuit. But 15 minutes of doing this in this heat could be quite an issue. Look how quickly the Lamborghini is closed in. Now that Stefano Guy is going super defensive, Harry Procek has joined the party very, very quickly indeed through turn 10. And, well, Maximilian Buch is going to be sitting in that car thinking, right, I need to try something different.
Well, I mean, there's two areas in the racetrack where it's clear that the Mercedes has got the opportunity to force the issue to put the Ferrari behind it. Elsewhere around the racetrack, you've just got to be patient and not try and put your car, stick your nose down the inside into no man's land and then find yourself in problems. So the place is potentially up into turn 15, not an overtaking position. It's all about preparation for the exit of the corner. But the Lamborghini has run down these leading two cars, and all of a sudden we're seeing Harry Procek in a realistic position to win this race.
Yeah, definitely. If he can get past the Mercedes and dispense of the Ferrari fairly quickly, he might be able to build the buffer up.
Just under 15 minutes remaining, and as these two lead cars go at it and are using up the rubber that they've got and having to drive sometimes offline on favourable lines, inevitably you may end up with a touch of contact somewhere, and the Lamborghini will be there just to pick up the pieces.
So down into turn 5 they come. Let's speak to David Mengsdorf. His teammate has just joined this battle for the lead.
David, will Harry be able to take a win? We're looking like he's going to finish on the podium.
Yes, we think we lost a lot of time because of the time penalty from Zolder. So now we're on P3, but I think Harry make it, and we are in the moment very fast, so possibly we can win.
Thank you.
These lead pair are actually the slowest cars on the circuit, incredibly, because they're going so defensive.
No, it's because the Ferrari has got no grip, which is slowing down the Mercedes, which is drawing the Lamborghini. I mean, Harry Procek has done a lap which is 1:42.0 against Stefano Guy at 42.9 and Maximilian Buch at 43.1. Maximilian Buch is the one that is, in effect, the big loser out of this, because he hasn't been able to get past in a car that is theoretically quicker than the Ferrari. And Harry Project is the one that's the quickest of all three, and he may well pick up the best slipstream up the main straight behind the Mercedes-Benz, and he's got good exit speed and good top speed. He could be the guy that really is the main threat to the race leader right now.
Jonathan Hershey is the quickest man on the circuit. He's in sixth position.
Look how tight Stefano Guy is. I mean, he's making a corner so tight that his exit speed is so low. Now watch the Lamborghini behind the Mercedes. This is going to be a potential overtake for second place.
Is he going to be able to get the inside line? Surely Buch will cover it. He's leaving the door marginally open, but the Lamborghini doesn't quite have that straight line speed as they come into turns 1, 2 and 3. Stefano Guy holding the lead. We're also going to be joined by Mika Vähämäki before too long. He's closing in at about 1.5 seconds a lap, so this is really concertinaing up here at the front of the field. Jonathan Hershey is lapping 2 seconds a lap quicker and is only 8 seconds behind, so he might well come into the fray as well, down in fifth position. So we've got, who knows what's going to happen in these final 12 minutes. Stefano Guy is defending the car. There's nothing more Guy can do because he is holding the lead of this race comfortably, straight to the inside line now for the run down into the hairpin, and it's now going to be a four-way fight for the lead.
Well, I mean, Stefano Guy's got a clear objective. He's just got to keep the Mercedes-Benz behind, but certainly Maximilian Buch's having to deal with trying to pass the lead car, but also be aware that Harry Project in the Lamborghini is directly behind him, and if Maximilian Buch's concentration is solely ahead of him, he could find himself easily being challenged for second place.
So the battle for the lead continues with 11 minutes to go, or just under 12 minutes. Stefano Guy going defensive. The wide line being taken by Maximilian Buch. Can he get the drive off the corner? Guy is just parking it on the apex, and this is really going to be frustrating Maximilian Buch, because all of a sudden he's got Harry Project right up behind into the final corner. We know that the Lamborghini is fairly strong around this circuit, but also Mika Vähämäki in that number 2 Mercedes as well. So 4 for the lead as we cross the line. Don't forget Jonathan Hershey, you can just see at the back in that Audi. He is lapping massively quickly. He has just lapped on that last lap.
Well, he's taken over half a second out of the gap between 4th and 5th place.
And 2 seconds off the lead of the race. So who is going to be able to make the move?
Contact, I think, between the Mercedes and the Ferrari. Ferrari had to go, it was so slow mid-corner right on the apex that the Mercedes ran a very gentle love touch, but nevertheless it indicates just how much pressure now is on Maximilian Buch to try and find a way past us. Look, the other Mercedes going the long way around into turn 6 to try and put pressure on the Lamborghini in 3rd place.
Out of shape, out of the corner for Stefano Guy. Oh, he needs to be careful here, Maximilian Buch. He's not going to get that one stopped. And this is surely going to allow Project to come through in the Lamborghini. And it's going to be 3 wide, in fact, because on the other side, here comes Mika Vähämäki. So that impatience from Maximilian Buch has really cost him. He's sending it up the inside. Are they all going to get through? No! Contact between the Lamborghini and the Mercedes. Harry Project is spinning. Frustration from Maximilian Buch. David Mengsdorf shakes his head.
Quite right, Truman. That was an avoidable incident, and I would have thought that Maximilian Buch, wherever he finishes, will suffer a penalty, because that was just an impossible move, and it was out of sheer frustration for what went on in turn 8 as they came onto that back straight. Great job, and Harry Project got a problem with the car. It looked like the back end may have suffered.
And it's there is a puncture.
Well, you know, that's maybe fair justice for what occurred. It was a bad judgment, and he's also trying to do. He tried to drive into the Lamborghini again, and he's driven over the bit of the racetrack, you know, meant to do. There was something very strange. I'd like to see a replay of that.
So there's Jonathan Hershey then. So right, let's give you a shakedown of exactly what's happened now.
Catch your breath.
Yeah, Stefano Guy leads the race in the 51A, of course, the Ferrari. 2nd place is Mika Vähämäki in the number 2 Heiko Gravity Charouz Motorsports Mercedes. 3rd, miraculously, is Jonathan Hershey in his 16 Sidelock Racing Audi. 4th now is Cesar Campanico. 5th, Harry Project. 6th, Dino Donardi. 7th, Sergei Rybov. 8th, Giuseppe Ciro. 9th, and in the pits is Maximilian Buch. And 10th place is Kurt Mollikens. So, well, this will give Stefano Guy a brief respite, but he's going to have another Mercedes on his back before too long. And there you can see the number 1 car in the pits. They've changed the front left wheel, and they're going to send Maximilian Buch back out onto the circuit if he can find a gear. There we go. So yeah, he just sent it to the outside, realised it wasn't working, and got so frustrated having lost 2 positions that he tried to brake later than is humanly possible. Down into the hairpin. there is Dino Lunardi then. He's lapping in the 40.6s, so he's still 2 seconds, 3 seconds quicker than the race leader. So Stefano Guy really struggling out there.
Well, I'm still waiting to see a message on the screen from the race director to say that the car of Maximilian Buch is going to be investigated for an avoidable incident. So far nothing has come up, and there we can see on the pit wall there's David Mensdorf looking frustrated, as he ought to be, because that was a potential winning manoeuvre by Harry Project, and it ended up in a poor judgment by Maximilian Buch.
Yeah, that was Dominic Baumann, in fact, looking frustrated with his teammates' lunge. Into turn 1 they come to start lap 31 of this 1 hour race. Only 7 minutes remaining. There is the 11th car. So here we go. So
okay,
number 1 car, he goes to the outside.
Okay, into turn 8.
He
goes into turn 8. He's wide. He gets unstable because he's run the white line. The Lamborghini of Project gets up alongside, has the drive, takes the position legitimately, and then watch what happens coming down the straight. The Mercedes Maximilian Buch just dives down the inside. He has to ride the curb on the inside of turn 9, 2 wheels on the grass, and then just nails the Lamborghini. Now that is an avoidable incident, a bad judgment based on nothing more than frustration.
Great to see that reaction from the pit wall. Fantastic stuff. David Mengsdorf thoroughly disappointed with how that transpired, unsurprisingly. Now we've got the resume of this battle. Mika Vähämäki will perhaps bring a different approach to the attack. We've got the incident between car number 11 and car number 1 under investigation. The message you were waiting for has arrived from race control, but 6.5 minutes to go. If Stefano Guy can hold on in this AF Corse Ferrari, it'd be quite an impressive.
I mean, Vähämäki has got the advantage that he's not been sitting behind the Ferrari for lap upon lap upon lap. He's found himself in second place circumstantially, but he's got momentum, and he might have a fresh approach as to how can I find a way past this oversteering Ferrari. Again, the very narrow entry into turn 15. Can Vähämäki get the drive off as the Ferrari immediately goes to the right-hand side of the track? The Mercedes follows in the slipstream, but there's no advantage to the Mercedes. In spite of being quicker off the corner, the Ferrari really gets up and goes coming up into turn 1.
The entry to the pit lane is under investigation as well for the number 1 car, so we saw him cutting across the pit lane entry. That is being investigated. Dark Horse.
The reason why it's being investigated, because he made a swerve at Harry Project in that Lamborghini after the contact. It was like almost a revenge move. It happened, and that's why he made the very late cut into the pits. That's what it looked like to me.
Well, we will wait and see exactly what the stewards decide there. Dark Horse for the race win. Jonathan Hershey, 3rd place. Well, he's not much of a dark horse anymore, because he's really hauled himself into this battle. It will be a stellar drive from Jonathan Hershey as they come down into the hairpin at turn 9. Guy going defensive.
You're allowed to make one defensive move, and look, the Mercedes gets up to the inside, but not quite close enough, and almost clips the rear of the Ferrari. Again, that long sweeping turn 10. It's a great little corner, but it's a one-line corner. So again, just everybody being backed up by Stefano Guy in the Ferrari. He's done a very good job driving defensively. He's not done anything really that I would describe as being unfair. He's just used what he's got to his maximum effect. He's had to deal with the pressure of Dominic Buch. Now he's got Vähämäki in the second of these 2 Mercedes. Again, into the final turn. Just look how much track he leaves open on the left-hand side.
So down the start-finish straight, somehow I think we might have a 6-car battle for the lead by the time we get to the end of this race. Stefano Guy leading, Vähämäki 2nd, Jonathan Hershey 3rd, 4th is Cesar Campanico, 5th is Harry Project, and 6th is Dino Lunardi. And I'm not joking, but the fastest laps on the last lap were set in the complete reverse order of the top 6. So 6th was quickest, 5th second quickest, and so on. So as Hershey got a problem, I think I saw a bit of gravel being kicked up. Did he go wide?
The left front, he may have a puncture, because the left front bit of the bodywork was scraping the ground. You could see sparks coming from that side of the car going into turns 2 and 3. There was a lot of the titanium skid, but
no, good call. I think it's a front left puncture, John, by the looks of things, because he was really dipping down. That's a real shame, because he was many people's prediction for the win about 10 laps ago, but unfortunately they have ended up being incorrect, and He is not going to win this one, is Jonathan Hershey. Hopefully he'll be able to get to the race. Here's Dino Lunardi up the inside of Harry Project. Round he goes. Too late on the brakes. Loses the back end.
And there you see the car, the left front. Jonathan Hershey out of the car. And what a great shame, a great drive from the young guy. And, well, a puncture. Where he picked it up, we don't know. Whether it doesn't look as if there was any contact that might have led to a puncture. So something on the racetrack has just managed to cause the tyre to go flat.
So 3 minutes to go. Here's a look at the replay.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see, we saw the other view.
It just goes.
No, it was gone before he got in there because there were sparks. We had a view from the outside.
Yeah, but there's no contact or anything, was there?
No, it was nothing that looks like there was contact. There's no indication on the side of the car. So maybe just simply he's picked up on a curb. Give it a good kick, Jonathan. Yeah, that's what you want to do. Now the battle for the lead. The Mercedes right under the rear wing of the Ferrari up the straight into turn 1.
Into turn 1 for what will be oh, that's gone wide. This is the chance, and up the inside goes Miha Vakamaki after some great defensive driving. Stefano Guy took too much curb on the way in, sent him out wide. Job done, Mika Vahamaki.
That's all you have to do, is put the guy, and I mean Stefano Guy, under pressure. And he did that. Too much curb on the inside, the Ferrari unable to retain its composure, literally, and that then gave the opportunity for Vahamaki to put the Mercedes alongside, and once he was in position, job done, end of lead of the race for the Ferrari.
So well, we said it would take a mistake.
Watch it again.
Here he goes, clouts the curb.
He took even turf on the inside. I got it right this time. Yeah. And the Mercedes, once it's alongside, Stefano Guy is a passenger.
So Mika Vahamaki moves into the lead of this race. Second place, Stefano Guy, but for how much longer? Because Cesar Campanico has caught right up to the back of him. Also Harry Procek, who will be after. Well, he can still get on the podium, in fact. So I think that would be fairly satisfactory for the Rhinos Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini. Into turn 13, Cesar Campanico considers a little move, but he's not close enough. And this is going through now to start the final lap of the race. I think Mika Vahamaki, look how much he's pulled away as they come into the final corner. That Mercedes only took the lead about 14 corners ago. Here comes the move from the Lamborghini, because he's taken a very, very wide line in. Should be able to get a good drive now. Is going to get the inside line on the run down.
Both cars have the identical engine. That's the Audi Lamborghini V10 engine. Different chassis, different construction, and the Lamborghini's got the position up to third place on the last lap.
So Harry Procek moves into third position. I doubt he's going to be able to close in too quickly on Stefano Guy. Guy's struggling.
If Project has got the momentum, he could in a final lap. We know where the Ferrari has been vulnerable. The gap right now, I would say no, but we're only a third of the way around the lap. There's 2 more segments to go.
So championship-wise, this is great news for Mika Vahamaki, because they're going to get a nice chunk of points. It should bring them up towards the fight at the top of the field. I think Stefano Guy and Michael Lyons could well take the lead of the championship after this race. We'll obviously give you official confirmation, but for the final time, Stefano Guy goes defensive. He realizes actually for the first time in the race he doesn't need to go that defensive, because he's not under too much pressure, and he should.
Well, look, the Lamborghini has run the Ferrari down now. Okay, we're at turn 9. We've got another 6 corners to go, none of which are particularly easy. But the one corner where the Ferrari might be vulnerable will be the final corner, turn 15. Is Harry Project going to do something dramatic and take advantage of the grip that Lamborghini has got and literally slot that car up the inside? No, he realizes he can't do it.
He thought about it into turn 13, so the final chance is turn 15. He's got a pretty decent drive actually out of 13. It's going to be a brave move, but here comes Mika Vahamaki into the final corner. Stefano Guy sees it coming and covers the inside line. It's the first win and the first podium of the season for Mika Vahamaki. The Mercedes crosses the line to take the win. Stefano Guy is just going to hang on ahead of Harry Procek in the Lamborghini. 4th position for the Audi of Cesar Campanico. 5th for Dino Lunardi. He'll be frustrated after that little spin a few laps ago. 6th place is going to come Giuseppe Ciro. There you can see Max Nielsen delighted with that win. Here's 6th position championship leader Giuseppe Ciro. I think he'll be the outgoing championship leader now. 7th place for that number 4 Ferrari we saw plenty of early on, Sergei Ryabov. 8th place will be Maximilian Buch, and 9th place will be Kurt Molikin. So, well, crikey, what a what an action-packed race that was.
Well, I mean, it was small, but it was quality. And I mean, with great racing, literally from the lights going out until the flag fell, and the way the race unfolded and the way the events untold, it was really, really a fantastic race. Stefano Guy, you have to give him credit for being capable of defending so strongly, fairly, but nevertheless he did all he could with the car. That was a real struggle, and that car had a major oversteer problem pretty much all around the racetrack. He just planted the car on the inside of most of the corners, slowed everybody else down as a consequence, and then could use the squirt of the Ferrari off the corner to consolidate the position. Eventually, he got it wrong up in turn 2, just a little bit too aggressive at the curbing on the inside, went agricultural, did a bit of rally crossing, and of course the consequence was this car got alongside in turn 3. Once it was there, job done, easy peasy. Thank you very much, Mercedes, take a victory.
So Mercedes, Ferrari and Lamborghini on the top 3. You can see the crowd enjoyed that. You can hear some of the clapping in the background as the marshals applaud the cars around the final sequence of corners. Max Nielsen and Mika Vähämäki, I've no doubt, will be delighted with that, because, well, if you'd have predicted that top 3 after the on the grid, I probably wouldn't have agreed. But an amazing race.
I thought it. I worked it out.
Oh, is that been your
pretty
bet?
much, you know, when I did my bet at the start of the weekend, who's going to be the winner of who the first 3 in the first round of the GT3 Championship, European Championship, I got the 3 wrong.
Okay, well, I shall bow to your superior judgment, John. So down the pit lane they come. It'll be interesting to hear from Stefano Guy, actually, whether he's... I imagine he's going to be disappointed that he couldn't hang on to take the victory after such a very strong defensive drive.
Who's going to be more disappointed, Stefano Guy or Michael Lyons?
Well, that's very true. That's very true.
I think, in fairness, Stefano Guy had a much more demanding task in terms of defending the lead, which is what he had to defend, and he did so valiantly for what the best part of 23 minutes or so, 25 minutes possibly, the length of time he was in the car. But look, you can see, look. Joy between Michael Lyons and Stefano Guy. They know they did a very good job under extremely difficult circumstances. So as a team effort, AF Corsa did what they had to do. They got second place, and they will leave this race knowing that when they come back later this afternoon and have another bite of the cherry, they've got an opportunity, but they'll need to do maybe a little bit of work in the car to help them with those rear tyres. They don't need to lose the rear tyres as quickly as it happened here.
Podium finishes in 4 out of the 5 races now for Michael Lyons and Stefano Guy, and as I say, I think this will move them into the lead of the championship, so they've certainly got reason to be pleased. Those two have as well. Max Nielsen and Mika Vähämäki starting to get their season back on track, perhaps, because it's been a bit of a challenge for them so far this year, but they haven't quite had the results that their pace has shown. But now they have their first win of the season. It's their first podium of the season as well. And, well, looks like Haley Coxon is down in the pit lane, ready to chat to our race winners. Max Nielsen and Mika Vähämäki are down there with Haley. Let's see what they've got to say.
Congratulations, Mika, your first win, and what a performance.
Thank you. It was a great race. Just from at the start, we dropped up to 7th place, and from there, unbelievable.
Congratulations, Max. Another podium finish for the team.
Yes, very nice. I'm happy about it, and for the team as well. So,
thank you.
So they take the victory and will now head up towards the podium. And that's Heiko Gravity Charoux's number 2 car. Very strong performance from them. But it's going to be interesting to hear from Stefano Guy and Michael Lyons, because Michael had the pace early on. I think in the first section of the race, he set the fastest lap of the race and was running very strongly indeed. And then Stefano Guy had some absolutely mega defending. Let's see what they've got to say. Down in the pit lane with Haley Coxon.
Congratulations, Stefano. That was fantastic defending.
yes, fantastic race, but the car with new BOP have no power. When you have second gear, go to gas, the car no power, and I defend my position from my stint, but at the last part of stint I have no brake, and I must brake more before than the point of the brake, and the other car overtake me. But in this condition is a fantastic result for the team. Of course, Ferrari with this BOP is fantastic race.
Congratulations, Michael. A great first stint by yourself, but disappointing you didn't take the win.
Yeah, this is a great result for us this weekend. The way the balance is, the whole team has worked really hard to get us here. We got the strategy right. The first stint went quite well. I was able to just sort of keep close, and then Stefano had the hardest job of all today, trying to hold off all those cars. He did a great job. I'm really happy just to be able to salvage something from the way the BOP is at the moment.
Thank you.
So they are pretty pleased with how this weekend has progressed ultimately with the result they have managed. Of course, for the second race, they will be starting towards the front of the field as well. But let's hear now from our third place men, David Mengsdorf and Harry Procek. Procek, of course, was running third before getting punted out of the race just a little bit. And let's hear from them now, shall we? They're down in the pit lane with Hayley Coxon.
Congratulations, Harry. The challenge was on for you to bring a podium home for the team.
Yes, and we was on a good way until the Mercedes come a bit unsafe, I would say. But overall, it was good because with such a contact, you can lose the race completely. And so overall, it was a good first race for us.
Congratulations, David. Another podium finish. Can you take the win in the race this afternoon?
Yeah, we must try it now. We get a 5 seconds penalty for the next race. And yeah, we give our best and we hope we can go on the podium or we can win the race.
Thank you.
So 2 second places in Zolder and a third place in the first race here at Navarra. And it's a pretty decent start for those Rhino Lipo Motorsport Lamborghinis.
Yeah, I mean, that Lamborghini, Mengsdorf and Podchak, I mean, in theory, were the winner of the race because they did everything they needed to do. They got the track position. They were taken unfairly out in turn 9, and I think there will be a penalty of some description for Maximilian Buch for an unnecessary or avoidable incident.
Here's a look at the results. Mercedes-Benz winning it. Heiko Gravity Charoux's team topping the podium for the second time this season after Baumann and Buch took a win in Nogaro. Michael Lyons and Stefano Guy finishing in second place, just holding off Harry Procek and Cesar Campanico. The rest of the field, well, the top 5 covered up by only 7 seconds. Then we had a bit of a gap back to Giuseppe Ciro in 6th position. Toril and Ryabov finished in 7th in their Ferrari. Dominic Baumann and Maximilian Buch, after a front left puncture after contact, dropped them down to 8th place, which isn't going to help their championship challenge at all. Yves Wirtz and Kurt Mullikins in 9th. Mark Sword and Jonathan Hershey retiring towards the end of the race with a front left puncture, which was a real shame because Jonathan Hershey was absolutely on it in that Science-Lock Racing Audi. He and Dino Lunardi setting the 2 fastest laps of the race, so that's certainly something to watch out for in the second race of the day, which we've got coming up later. But onto the podium come our race winners, Max Nilsson and Mika Vähämäki. Well, Max Nilsson's there, here comes Mika Vähämäki onto the top step of the podium. Second place, Michael Lyons and Stefano Guy for AF Corsa Ferrari. And third position, David Mengsdorf started the car, handed over to Harry Procek. Busy race for the Lamborghinis, but they nevertheless finish in third position. And very, very entertaining race for them, and a very entertaining race for all of us, really. Fantastic racing throughout the field and throughout the 1 hour. The gap's really ebbing and flowing up at the front. That, of course, is Nii Amrim up there on the podium as well as the best bronze driver. I think we haven't had a bronze driver on. We've had bronze drivers on the outright podium for the opening 4 races, so that's why we haven't seen this situation before. But it's Nii Amrim there who's going to take the trophy for the best bronze place finisher. Of course, there are gold, silver and bronze categories within the FIA GT Championships. And there is Francisco Javier Sanz, sporting director of the RFEDA, handing the trophy to Stefano Guy and Michael Lyons in second position. Cool little trophies in the shape of the circuit, aren't they?
Yeah, it's lovely. Nice one to put on your sideboard. Was a memory of your motor racing career. That'll look pretty nice in about 25 years' time.
So there are the trophies handed to the winner by Elena Torres, Minister of Social Policy, Sports and Youth, and she hands the trophies to Max Nilsson and Mika Vähämäki, who take the top step of the podium and have done their championship challenge no harm at all by taking the first win, because they have struggled in the opening rounds. This is going to take them up to somewhere in the region of 58 points. It's Mercedes on the top step, Ferrari on the second, and Lamborghini on the third, with an Audi in fourth place. So once again, 4 brands in the top 4 positions. So second place for AF Corsa and the Ferrari, despite their complaints about, or their struggles with the new BOP this weekend. And there comes the trophy for the best bronze driver, as we've said. So congratulations to our top 3. Impressive performance from all of them, really, in what was you couldn't have predicted anything about that race, could you?
No, I think we had a cracking race with great action, a lot of defence, a lot of attacks, drivers working where they're strong, others defending where they were weak. And the predictability of the outcome of the race, I'm slightly tongue-in-cheek when I said I predicted the outcome. No one could have predicted what we were going to see, and I think we had a cracking race, and look forward to the second one later this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the second FIA GT3 race coming up this afternoon. We've got the championship race for FIA GT1 as well. The FIA GT1 race gets underway in about an hour's time. We'll be going on air, and then the second race in FIA GT3 comes up at 2:45 local time, as the drivers pose for the photos on the top step of the podium. Of course, the Heiko Gravity Charouz representative as well for the winning team. They finishing first and 8th. So I think really the strongest teams in that race were AF Corsa and actually Science-Lock Racing. We saw hardly anything of Science-Lock Racing, hardly anything of the Audis, but they ended up finishing 4th and 5th positions.
Well, certainly Jonathan Hershey was the leading Audi up until the moment he went out with a puncture, and that was a car that would have been a definite podium position.
So I thought Stefano Guy and Michael Lyons may take the lead of the championship. In fact, that 6th position for Giuseppe Ciro means he and Ardagna Perez hold on by just 1 point at the top of the standings. Baumann and Buch, 69 points. As I said, Max Nilsson and Mika Vähämäki starting to haul themselves up into the challenge. Mengsdorf and Procik, despite not missing the opening 2 races of the season, are there in 5th position. As far as the teams are concerned, AF Corsa continue to lead. The gap has extended over Heiko Gravity Charouz. Science-Lock Racing in 3rd, Lippert Motorsport in 4th position. So, an action-packed race. It was difficult to keep a track of it. Let's have a look back at the highlights. A very fetching umbrella to protect themselves from the Spanish sun. Good start from David Mengsdorf. Jerome Demey got a drive-through penalty for that jump start, being out of position. This was the battle that kept our attention early on, the battle for 4th place between the 2 Ferraris.
Yes, they battled all the way through for a long time. The gap eventually did open up at turn 3, and Ardagna Perez almost went rallycross as he turned to the left. Forgot the racetrack was the black stuff, not the green stuff.
So that meant that Ardagna Perez started to drop down the field and couldn't really do anything about it. The battle was on for second place. Well, no, this was the battle for second place, but the 50 car of Giuseppe Ciro came out, held up the second place Mercedes, and as a result managed out to get in front of the Mercedes. You can see there, so that put Stefano Guy ahead of the number 1 car of Maximilian Buch, with in 3rd place Harry Procik.
Great driver Jonathan Hershey coming up through the field, quickest car on the circuit for many laps. You see the Bay and the other Audi. But this battle ultimately went in favour of the Mercedes, but you can see round the outside of turn 8, it was the Rhino's Lamborghini that got the lead. Now watch what the Mercedes does. It loses its 2nd position, it goes 3rd, then it makes a suicide bid down the inside, tags the Lamborghini, spins it round, and in the process gets a puncture.
That didn't impress the Rhinos Lifer squad, but a front left puncture, as you say, John, for Maximilian Buch, put him out of the race. The battle then continued with the number 2 Mercedes. Mika Vähämäki was desperately trying to get past. The front left puncture, unfortunately for Jonathan Hershey, put him out of the race. Dilo Lunardi had a little rotation down there at the hairpin, but it was that too much curb allowed Mika Vähämäki to get up the inside of Stefano Guy. 3rd place for Harry Procik. Mika Vähämäki took the race win. Thank you for joining us. 2nd race coming up later on today. We'll see you then.